First question, do you have good hair?
I mean, I have hair.
Do you have good hair?
Huh?
Do you have good hair?
That's a loaded question.
In what terms? In like the pop culture way that Black people say good hair?
When I was little, people probably told me that I did because, I was one of the little curly hair boys. My dad had quote unquote good hair.
First question, do you have good hair?
Do I have good hair? It depends on what you describe good hair. I have black hair.
Do you have good hair?
Do I have good hair? I mean, I have healthy hair.
I don't know what that means per se, right? But I've been told by multiple women that I have good hair, so I trust Black women.
You have good hair?
I have excellent hair.
I'm very excited. Like, I've looked at some videos from last year, and I can't believe all you guys let me keep that nappy hair for so long. Like, but it was kind of one of those superstitions. I kept winning the Super Bowl, which is a good thing, but I didn't want to cut the hair while I was doing it. And so I told everybody during the season that win or lose, if we win 3 in a row or if we lose, I'm getting the haircut. Like, that's enough. And I'm very excited. Like, I've looked at some videos from last year, and I can't believe all you guys let me keep that nappy hair for so long. Like, I look way better now with the short hair, so I'll be keeping this going forward.
Bad hair, good hair. LeBron James.
It's not amazing, but it's not bad. I'm sure he always got a haircut. Okay. His hair is always trimmed. So I'd say I'd actually keep it at that.
Okay.
Damn.
He got a receding hairline. I love LeBron, but the hairline do be receding.
The king. She dissed the king. Kelly Oubre.
I think he has nice hair. I like it. A little bit towards you. Tell me your
Good
thoughts.
job. I can't. I'm a taken woman.
Yeah, he has nice hair.
Yeah, he has great hair.
Great hair.
Great hair.
He's hot. Jalen Suggs.
So that was weird, right? 2 non-black women talking about what black men have good hair. I'm gonna need one of my bread tube folks to tap in and tell me what type of ism that is. Like, y'all see how the ancestors working, right? It came across my feed the day before I was supposed to record. Normally, all I watch on Instagram are marble races, trucks driving in the bridges that are too short, and sports highlights. We're gonna get into it, but just some life advice from your friendly neighborhood Negro. It's not a good idea to make a game of what black men have good and bad hair. This entire video and title is clickbait. I don't even believe in the concept of good and bad hair, but they gave me the perfect clip to show how those outside of the culture view black bodies, hair included. And by the way, I'm John Lewis. This is Good Hair 2, an unauthorized sequel. We got Hero Beats on the production. Cue the intro.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind?
This is the hairstyle that has Daryl George, a junior at Barbers Hill High School in Mont Bellevue, in trouble.
It is a part of who we are.
He's been in in-school suspension since August 31st. That's the same week Texas outlawed racial discrimination based on hairstyle.
Michael Jordan cut his hair bald because of Onyx. Because of Onyx. Get out of here. Do the knowledge, nigga.
We'll be talking about black identity in this video. I had to come up with a clever segue so I can talk about today's sponsor, Aura. Aura protects your real identity. It's always crooks looking to steal it, or 100% legal companies that sell that data and make it almost impossible for you to get it removed from the list. Go Google your name. It's a good chance you could find some info on yourself thanks to shady data brokers. Hell, your data is probably being sold as we speak, so Jeff Bezos can send a bunch of Asian celebrities into a cloud for 20 minutes and make them feel like they're astronauts. But guess what? If you use my code for today's sponsor, Aura, and if you sign up, you get alerted for the data breach. You get alerted for fraud alerts. You get alerted for credit cards and bank accounts open to your name. You get the password manager. You get the VPN manager. Use my link for a 14-day free trial and click, it doesn't matter, Thanks again to Aura, today's sponsor. Second late addition to the script. As I was getting ready to finish and record, Kermit the Frog himself has this clip going around social media talking about his nappy hair. First, not a single black person I know would consider Patrick Mahomes' hair nappy when it's grown out. And B, hearing him, who already gives off showing feet in racial chat rooms vibes, talk about nappy hair or something negative when we know his wife and his entire family is MAGA, it just yells anti-blackness. I did interview a couple biracial people for this video, but neither are the half-white types you would expect. I didn't even want to get into it because this isn't the explain black hair to white people video. You all can go watch the original Chris Rock documentary, Good Hair 1 for that. Okay, ran over. Chiefs down, Lions up. As long as I can remember, black hair interested me. As a kid, 3 of my 4 sisters still lived at home with us. I recall the smell of the hot comb as my mother pressed their hair for special events, and burnt hair smell, yells about, you burnt my neck. As they got older and visited beauty shops, make sure you tie your scarf, watch how you sleep. We have a wedding to go to in the morning. Going to the barber shop with 3 of my 4 older brothers, in the 90s, it was only 2 haircuts I could get, a bald fade or a light Caesar. And at the very most, a subtle part on the side of my head no longer than 1/4 inch. I was never allowed to get cool designs in my head, as was the style at the time. Those were considered worldly. Yeah, I was a PK. Actually an elder's kid, but the same thing. I don't want to have to explain all of it. But the worst part of the haircut as a kid was the end though. White cotton towel dabbed in alcohol that felt like a snake sting when it was done. The thing about anti-blackness is, it's usually subtle, subconscious, and taught in the home or community first. It was understood the boys in the family got haircuts every 3 weeks. No one told us directly we had bad hair, but something about the 3rd week's Negro hair got too thick and nappy for the Kingdom Hall or any proper place of worship. My sister's hair wasn't fine with just oil and a brush. To be good hair, it needed to be hot combed, or a comb along with a blow dryer, or a mixture of chemicals for finger waves, as was the style at the time. And some other labor I wasn't privy to. As time passed, it was now the early 2000s, I was a teenager. I wondered why I wasn't allowed to grow out my hair for braids like Allen Iverson or Lil Bow Wow. That's worldly is all I was told. My sister directly above me, 4 years my senior, was not working, and seemingly every dollar went into having good hair. Weaves a different length, but no color other than black because that wasn't good hair. Spending half the day at the African's braiding shop getting zillions of thin braid that made up of sometimes hundreds, at least by my memory, but never braids at an extra important event because that wasn't good hair either. By my junior high years, I was obsessed with getting waves and keeping a fresh cut because I didn't have good hair like some of the other boys who could get 360s with nothing more than water and a brush. But who even instilled this idea in the older generation, thus the younger generation, of good hair? And who does have good hair?
But also something you notice with how black hair tells stories. So like the first season of Insecure, when what is Issa boyfriend's name?
Damn, he's like such a Lawrence.
Yeah, Lawrence. So like when you look at Lawrence, his first season, just the way his hair looks, it shows that he isn't doing anything. And as the show goes on, he gets more successful. He still has natural hair, but it's more upkept and the look. So like that's something that people that aren't tapped in with black culture. It's like how we say in our videos, there's things that only black people will understand, right, just the way we drop it in or things that we mention.
Right. Yeah, there was a boy, I never forget, when I was working as a social worker, people were like, there was this one boy, and I remember picking him out of the crowd and was like, can we just get this boy a haircut? You'd probably do so much for your outcomes for this boy if you got him a haircut. Yeah, but I knew the boy was depressed because he hadn't got not because he hadn't got a haircut, but the style of his hair indicated that he had stopped caring, right? And like, that's the thing. When black folks stop, everybody, but with black folks specifically, you can see shit like that.
I think now that everybody's leaning towards their natural hair, I think getting a relaxer and a perm is like, oh my gosh, you're going to put that in your head.
Usually just braids. That's why I always have braids in my hair, but I just really like braids.
Kids were like, we need to learn how to wear our natural hair. Why do you have fake hair in your head? Like, it was a thing when I had my hair braided.
It is all rooted in sort of internalized anti-Blackness. And I kind of hate that our parents, and I'm sure I'm not alone, right? Like many of our parents had to kind of adapt that as a survival tactic.
The counter argument to Obama, like recognizing Obama wasn't what we all wanted him to be fully, made people like say go harder. So now we got to get back to our roots and radicalism and look the part and reject acceptable Negro imagery.
I do get a lot of compliments from white guys when I wear my natural hair.
We weren't talking about hair at a deep level, except for in one framing only, or two framings, I guess. Is your hair nappy or do you have waves?
You know, I love that because I don't want her to have any hang-ups about her hair or feel like, you know, my hair isn't this or my hair isn't that.
And she bleached it as, you know, blonde or as white as she could get it. And I put orange, I put pink, I put blue, whatever color you could think of, I put in my hair.
Well, the good hair thing is usually like somebody with real silky hair, not a lot of waves, curly, that type of thing. But the crazy part is that people who got that good hair that I just described usually go bald first.
Okay. So when you were growing up, were you ever told you have good hair, bad hair? What was it like for you as a kid?
I was told I had bad hair. I was told my hair was unmanageable. I was told I was nappy headed. I was told my hair was too hard. It was too coarse. I never got you have such good, easy, manageable. I always been told I had bad hair. And it's so crazy because I've always had hair on my head. I was just always told, it's bad. It's hard to do. I can't manage it.
Yeah.
Okay. What you like about your hair?
I like about my hair is that I can experience my hair being in a different way.
Different styles?
Yeah, different styles. And to show other people what I like about my hair.
It's funny, my whole life people always been telling me, oh man, you know, you got that good hair. But I was raised in that real like Afrocentric kind of belief that, you know, good hair is healthy hair, you know? So I never felt that because my hair was a little looser than some of my cousins that my hair was good, you know? And now that like I wear braids, you can't really tell the texture as much, but I had like a real loose kind of joint going on.
Most of our generation, you know, we've went through that generation of Black people being told they have good hair, bad hair, you know what I'm saying? And it's kind of changed, which is interesting. Also with you, I wanted to get your experience because you being Black and Dominican, you know, it was probably a little bit different from you, especially out there in New York. So you said you were raised with the more Afrocentric, that's the household?
Yeah. So I grew up, my mom was African-American, my father was the Dominican one. But my dad, you know, the common joke on Dominicans is like the I know Black kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But my dad, he was, you know, he was always very of his Blackness. He never tried to make it seem like he wasn't Black. But the funny thing about it was he was a very fair-skinned dude, and he had, you know, not straight hair, but, you know, he could take a comb and, you know, do that straight back kind of joint. Whereas, you know, my mother had like that 4C Afro kind of hair. But, you know, all in all, like, even though my hair was like in between theirs, I never, you know, felt like I had better hair than anybody. It was just, you know, looser kind of curled than some of my cousins.
Do you have good hair?
I would say no, because I'm recovering from a really bad bleach situation, and my hair is not the healthiest. And I'm avoiding shaving my head bald completely.
So what were you told when you were a kid?
Well, you know, my mother is not Black, so I had a relaxer at a very, very young age.
How old?
Probably before school.
Okay, because the youngest I heard so far is 4. Somebody I interviewed.
Probably around that age, yeah. I was not in school, yeah. So, in terms of, well, I define good hair as healthy hair. If your hair is at its healthiest and it's flourishing, that's good to me. But as far as the texture of good hair, I guess I would put myself in that category of what our culture considers good hair.
Right. Because you have Mexican, Rican, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm always curious how that is. So how did your mother, how did she deal with that growing up? Because a lot of times,
my hair was relaxed pretty much until I was 18 and I went into the military.
Oh, so by the time I started growing my hair out, though, I, as a male, I had cornrows as well. So I kind of put myself in a situation where that conversation was less relevant to my experience. You know what I'm saying? But I would definitely say, with the cultural context that question has, when I was younger, definitely was considered a kid with quote unquote good hair for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
You couldn't have told ever since good hair. And that, me, I'm a recovering hotel. My hair is fantastic. So I got that true Negro spiritual. People be trying to grow locks with that 4A nonsense. Locks be looking like a bunch of rags tied together. But if you got that pure that pure, Southern cotton and coming out your scalp, it locks up instantly and it grows long.
So when you were growing up, what were you told?
I was told that, I grew up in a house with all girls, so my mom had me very young, and that was something that she remained very firm on, making sure that we kind of like maintained and knew what to do. Like at a certain age, she kind of stopped doing our hair so that we can know how to do our own hair. But to me, it's a part of who you are.
Whoever else made the pressed hair and the waves and the S curl, it wasn't Billy D S curl? I feel like it was.
Billy D. Williams, he had something going on. I just remember him in Star Wars. I don't remember him in nothing else.
But no, I'm almost positive he gave us S curl. Let me see, S curl, Billy D. Williams. Yep. Or something. Ooh, look at me. I gotta pull this up for you. Cause this is my childhood right here. Like that's something I grew up seeing, right? And Billy D, like that's how they used to talk about him. He was the first Morris Chestnut. He was the first, I don't know, what's the British dude that played Mufasa? Like he was one of them. He was a sex symbol for Black women. So like, of course he can come out and hand you a bottle of whatever the fuck it is, and you're gonna put that in your hair to make it look good. So if it was an S curl, a Jerry curl, locks, plaits, braids, waves, you were gonna do that. I don't care if you were in California, New York, Georgia, whatever. Now certain styles wouldn't evolve as quickly, right? But it was definitely a thing. Like people were definitely constantly doing that. And so like, yeah, in the 90s and the 80s, those looks were everywhere, I would argue. Definitely at least in the Georgia and Chicago. Wasn't just a West Coast thing.
Do you have good hair?
All right, I've been told I have good hair. Like, I've been growing out my hair now for, I think about maybe 5 years. Like, I think I started growing it out during the pandemic. And whenever I go to like this Black woman owned salon, and they're always like, yeah, man, your hair is like really easy to work with. Like your hair is so pretty. I don't know what that means per se, right? But I've been told by multiple women that I have good hair, so I trust Black women.
So what was yours like as a child, and were you told you had good hair, or what were you told about your hair?
No, I never particularly myself heard anybody refer to me or my hair as good hair. But I always had like natural hair. So like I never had it relaxed, never had a perm, nothing like that. It was always, press and curl and you off. You know what I mean? It was nothing ever really too much about it. I didn't get started into like weave and stuff like that until well after I graduated high school, when I could start to do it like myself and stuff like that. So it was well, into my adult years when I started learning about that. But when I got to high school is when I started really wearing my like natural hair. I was really just into the Hotep swag, you know what I'm saying, when I was in high school. So nice. It was afros all the time, just natural hair all the time. So I've definitely gone in and out like of my hair journey. Like I said, to me, good hair means healthy hair. You know what I mean? And that could be super coarse, thick hair. That could be, more curlier hair. Like for me, when I was doing my afros, I was just wishing and praying my hair was thicker so my afro would stop falling down. Right. You know what I mean? So it's like to one person what's good hair is not to another person. You know what I mean? So it's just like, I said good hair is healthy hair. And all black hair is good hair. So
how was hair looked at for you all back then as far as traditional hairstyles, or what was acceptable?
Yeah, I put like my childhood definitely like in those probably late 90s, early 2000s. And it was, what's that? What is like the numbering system? Like let's like get specific first. Right, yeah, because you have to put it at the intersection of both race and gender. Because I will say, as a guy, right, we weren't talking about hair at a deep level, except for in one framing only, or two framings, I guess. Is your hair nappy or do you have waves? And like I was a kid that had waves, and waves were kind of like that was our way of saying that we had good hair. Right, mm-hmm. Because of like the amount of maintenance and upkeep and products you had to put in your hair. But like, yeah, I was that kid like walking around the basketball court with the handleless with wave brush. Yeah. Had the do-rag. But my parents had no idea what I was doing. They were like, "Why are you brushing your hair the wrong way?" Because my dad would brush it back. With like I don't know. And I was like, "Yeah, no, like we brush it this way." And like I never even got the 360s for real, because I grew up like liking having a low taper fade. So like I like just having the front part with the waves. And like we talked about that, like we do wave checks. But as far as like, I think it wasn't really until I got into college, honestly, and really I started speaking to more black women that I understood like sort of hair politics about having the fact that even though I'm African, I'm like African. I just thought that meant immediately that I had 4C hair. And also when I heard 4C hair, I just thought like, okay, that means kinky. That means just having bad hair, right? That just means having difficult to work with hair.
Trauma. When it comes to black people, we like the custom built gaming PC of it. Any type of trauma you want. We literally are born with trauma from past generations. And hair trauma might sound silly if you aren't of the culture, but it is very real. My one sister, who we'll just call Tammy for this video, when I did see her without any enhancements, her hair wasn't long, and starting when I was a teenager, I'd never seen her without some type of weave or extension when it was time to go out. I always wondered what caused that, and curious how it affected her and what type of hair trauma other black people as children and young adults experience.
Oh my gosh. So I got my first relaxer when I was about 4. Like I had a relaxer for as long as I can remember, like from age 4 to about 17, 18, I could not tell you what my natural hair texture looked like. I did not know. It wasn't until I took it upon myself to say, okay, I want to know what my hair looked like. I'm tired of trimming my hair because it was breaking off anyway. So I'm like, there's no way that this is good for me. And my son is beating me up. So I was like, let me cut all my hair off and start over natural. And so I've been natural since I was about 19.
So you saying you had your natural hair braided, or you had like box braids with it?
I had box braids.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would have been like middle school. Yeah, that would have been like 90s. And you said you got backlash from that, from not wearing your natural hair.
Mm-hmm. Like I remember it being a thing, like people saying I had fake hair and just getting ragged on a lot for having braids nonetheless. Like it wasn't like it was tracks, it was just braids. It was weird. It was a weird time. I don't know, maybe because it was the Midwest.
Oh, okay. So see, I thought it was Texas back then.
No, I lived in Illinois, in Southern Illinois. Yeah. I don't know what it was, but I just got a lot of backlash for it being quote unquote fake hair.
You know, my experience is a little bit unique because I've always had long hair. So my, again, overprotective mother, she never let nobody else braid my hair when I was in high school. Obviously, you go to college. I still had cornrows in college. I went to school in Ohio, so, you know, mom couldn't do it. And that's like perfect opportunity to connect with a girl that you might be crushing on or whatever. Like, you know, there was a girl that I was trying to date that braided hair. And I was like, all right, bet I'm gonna talk to her. We can bond over this hair. It's a very intimate exchange between, you know, familial or whatever. And all this time, my mom was like, yeah, you got to be careful who you let put their hands on your hair. You know, they don't know how to take care of it, blah, 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 blah. And I always thought, well, she's just saying that just because blah, 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 blah. Bro, the first time this woman braided my hair, I lost so much of my hair, bro. Because I didn't know anything about like loose split ends and breakage and all of this stuff. And mind you, I had crazy hang time. It was like down to my chest. Bro, I lost so much of my hair the first time this girl braided my hair. I was devastated. I was like, oh my God, my mom was right. Like, these girls don't know what they're doing.
So do you think it was her, or was it she was actually just doing a healthy thing of clipping the dead ends and stuff? Is that
probably? To be honest, I'm not sure. But she did, well, it's possible that it was probably both. It was possible that she did do some health stuff because I did not do anything for loose ends. I didn't know anything about it. It probably just happened naturally, honestly, just because the hair broke off. And she braided a lot faster, a lot more. You know, my mom, shout out to our mothers that worked years and years and years. My mom had crazy carpal tunnel, so it used to take her forever to braid my hair. This girl, she was braiding my shit. She braided me up, and like, it would usually take my mom like 2-3 hours. It took her like 45 minutes to do my shit. It was crazy. So I just think it was a different approach. I wasn't her son, right? So she didn't like pay the kind of attention that you might to this boy that you've birthed, and you know every little nook and cranny of their head, like you know how to take care of them. She wasn't thinking about that. And so I don't think it was intentional. I don't think she did a bad job. I just think that, like, one, my hair probably wasn't as healthy as it needed to be, and two, it's just a different touch. It's a different interaction with the hair. And it wasn't her fault neither. Like, I felt some type of way at first, but we talked about it. She was like, bro, you need to stop tripping. Your hair was not healthy anyways, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, all right, bet. I guess I don't know what I'm talking about. So it was all good. But it did scare me at first. I was like, dog, I can't believe she was right about this.
Similar childhood. So because you were raised Jehovah's Witness, you know, for black folks, so like me, I'm just black. So we always had this thing about our hair, and it always felt like we didn't realize it was anti-blackness as kids, but then you get older and you like, all right, so why are we not allowed to go more than 2 or 3 weeks with a haircut? But the white people in the religion, they can go months as long as they style it down. So with you, what was that like having, because of that texture of your hair? Because like even with Latino people, if they grow their hair out because it's looser, they also didn't really get that same type of pressure. What was it like for you out in New York?
So for most of my life, I wore like, 360 waves. That was what was in style. But then when I got into like my mid 20s, I started wearing my hair like just out curly. And, I definitely benefited from that like looser texture privilege because, in the congregation that I used to go to, they was like, oh man, that's cool. Look at his hair. He got that good hair. Whereas any other brother, if their hair get a little nappy, they like, yo, brother, you gotta cut that. You gotta look presentable when you have to keep them whole,
To touch on the perm subject, my sisters would, they would often get perms. My mom would perm their hair. And again, at a certain age, my mom would make us do our own hair to be able to know how to do it at a certain age. And I never knew the difference between a stronger perm versus a perm that's not so strong. I guess you would call it like a coarse and like a light to, and I put the wrong one in my hair. And I was experiencing like chunks of hair loss.
Oh my goodness. I don't think letting the kid do a perm on themselves is not the way to let them learn how to do their hair.
I would say I probably was like 12 and my sister did it for me. So I technically didn't do it, but she let my sister do it, and yeah.
Black masculinity is similar to black feminism. Yeah, by the titles, they sound similar to their white counterparts, but once you do the knowledge, they couldn't be more different. Culture plays a huge part. When it comes to black men, the style tells many stories of the era. 1960s and earlier had relaxers. Think Sammy Davis Jr. in the Rat Pack days. 1960s, the Black is Beautiful civil rights era. 1980s, Jerry curls. 90s was a mix of bald heads and tapers of waves. Then come Iverson and braids for a while, and jump to modern day, embracing the natural hair. Locks, braids, afros, curled. But through it all, black men just looked at masculinity differently, especially with black hair. While most white men see caring too much about one's appearance, the black barbershop for decades had been a place for building community, debates, conspiracies, and also a few scoops of misogyny. I don't know how many times I've seen a man who looked like he got a cut, maybe 20 minutes ago, spend a couple hours in the barbershop just to talk, get his personal 30 minutes with the barber to vent about work, his baby mama, who going out, who about to go to the pen. Because where else can black men be vulnerable, especially before therapy was seen as semi-normal? In fact, you might be excluded from masculinity if you don't keep your appearance up. Look at his hair. You know he don't get no hoes. Oh, he got that I only date white girls hair. And for decades, the bald head with maybe a beard or a goatee was a sign of wisdom in the black community. Whereas the specific type of white man came up claiming their masculinity by showing how gritty they are, not caring about a haircut, casual clothes, or grooming, so much that about 15 years ago, they made up a whole term called metrosexual for white guys that clip their nails and wear cologne. Or the invention of dude wipes. I still legit have no idea when purchasing these would make sense. If I'm sweaty enough that I'm worried I might be musty, I'm going home to shower and change before I go to the function. Whereas black men, before I was even in my 20s, it was taught to me, you keep a couple bottles of cologne at home, a haircut, clean shoes if you want to approach women.
I always joke, I was raised by a pack of militant blacks. So there were a lot of men with locks and, adjacent to me. Like my uncle had super long locks. My cousin had locks. I had a couple of cousins, as a matter of fact, that had locks. So I think the moment where I decided to grow my hair was when I saw my big cuz had them. You remember them 90s locks with the shaved sides, but the top part was kind of on some like Shy So Bob type shit.
Coolio joints almost. If I'm
his were short though. They weren't that long, but he had like the shaved everything else, but just the top had the little Bart Simpson joints going. And I was like, bro, those are fire. And this was like probably like 98, 97, 98. So I started growing the little tiny joints. And then after a while, it just kind of became a part of my personality. And it was not a lot of us doing it back then. Like back in the mid 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, you wasn't a cool kid unless you had waves.
When I first started cutting hair, haircuts was like $10, you know what I'm saying? But when I was in high school, I was paying $20, but me charging coming up, it was like $15, $20. But now, haircut can range from $10 to $100, you know what I'm saying? Depending on your skill level and who you are. I feel like people can eat more off of this haircut of pricing. I love it, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I'd rather get the money I'm getting rather than, $10 or something like that. But you can definitely see a change. And a lot of people don't like it. The people that got to pay for the haircuts don't like it. Some don't. It's just too much money, and they think that that we still are living in 1990s.
Right.
You're like, bro, that was 20 years ago when their haircut was that price. If you paid $10, but you're a grown-ass man. And to think about it, you'll go to the club and pay $60 for a drink.
Right.
And you won't pay your barber $60 for that haircut. That haircut gonna last you all week. You about to go piss that shit out. Right. And it don't last at all, you know? Right. You gonna have this haircut, you got a couple outfits at home, and that haircut gonna make all them outfits look good. You know, that drinking ain't gonna do shit. You buy weed is expensive. And niggas be wearing, I don't know, we can say niggas on here, but, okay. People wearing $1,000 shoes, you know, $500 pants, and nigga, $200 shirt. But you can't give me $60 for my cut. And without that cut, none of that shit ain't gonna look right you got on. Yeah. You know? I thought it was gonna mess with my money. People growing their hair out, but it did. You know, you still got a lot of people out here who still have regular haircuts as well. And you know, people gotta get that stuff lined up, and everybody don't have dreads just all over. You know, like me, I got a fade, but I got the dreads up top. So you have clients that come in like that where I still have to perform an actual haircut, you know? So it's been more people in this area with, damn, now I'm thinking about it, you see more people with dreads and braids more than a taper.
And you are Nigerian American, correct?
I'm Nigerian American, Yoruba.
So what is considered, like, what's traditional hairstyles for black men from your culture?
There's been a shifting of the guard between the different generations, but like for people like my uncles and my dad's generation, I would say it's usually like a light Caesar, a dark Caesar, like a close cut, right? To be honest, like, and it's also segmented by age. Because I mean, once you hit like 40, it's bald. Like that's the actual truth. Like once you hit unk status, like every African unk just like wants to shave their head bald. I don't understand what it is. My dad's one of the very few exceptions, but instead he gets a fade. So you got the Caesar, the fade, or the bald look, the Morris chestnut, if you will. But also these days, especially with the rise of like Afrobeat stars like Burna Boy, there is, you know, there's more people like me that are getting like 2-strand locks or twists. I think especially also in football, you have a lot of athletes that also like grow their hair long and usually lock it.
Now, coming from the black militant family, how were the different other type of hairstyles viewed, if you remember those discussions? Because you remember for a while, yeah, we had Jordan who made bald heads cool, but like Zeke said in his interview, if you had a bald head as a black man, you dressed a certain way, they put you in a different category, or even with braids and stuff. So how did what do you recall from that time?
Yeah, I mean, I think my dad was the one that was on some militant radical academia type stuff back in the day. So he was with it. My mom was a little bit more conservative socially. So she had some worries around the braids. She didn't necessarily like the connotation that came with it. In her eyes, she would want me to be a lot more like straight lace, a lot more kind of neat and downplayed. So I was able to win very few battles I won with my mom, but one of the ones I was able to win with her was, hey, I'm playing basketball, right? So like basketball players get to wear braids, so I should be able to make that work. And luckily I was able to make it work. But as far as other styles are concerned, you know, from my perspective as a youngster, when I saw, you know, we used to talk about, you're a Detroiter, so you know what it is, the Shrine of the Black Madonna. I used to think a lot about like, man, it's like a lot of bald black men in there that's like super serious with a goatee and hit this pose every now and then, right? So every time I saw that, I've just thought of like seriousness. I thought of someone that you're supposed to take serious, someone who has control over the situation. But again, these are through the eyes of a 10-year-old boy, right? I didn't really have no real perspective.
Right. Yeah, you almost a decade older than me, but when I was younger, my parents, they didn't like my older brothers rocking a bald head. Even that was seen as something that, because that's the style that DMX and Jay-Z and them were rocking in the early 90s. So do you remember what was the discussion about bald heads on young black men back then?
It was a dichotomy because you also had Jordan at that time. You know what I'm saying? So like the bald head was it really just I never got any problems with the bald head when I started doing that. And for me, it was the not the onyx. You know what I'm saying? That whole do the knowledge meme.
Yeah,
that shit is true for me. Onyx and the locks is what got me to do a bald head. And like, yeah, I don't think it was. I think the bald head, because it was also something that distinguished black men did. It was kind of like, all right, we got to go further down the list to see how we gonna judge you. You know, you got a bald head while your pants sagging up. All right, and then we know how to look at you. You know what I'm saying? And if you had a bald head and, you know, a nice polo shirt on or whatever, it's like, oh, okay, that's just a charming young man. You know, he can date your daughter, whatever. But overall, like, I think the bald head is definitely more safe than locks have ever been, than cornrows, etc. Again, because of the Michael Jordans and, you know, probably a bunch of other people whose names I'm forgetting, but the bald head has been rocked by black men of status forever because, you know, you lose all your hair and, you know, if you can grow a goatee and shave everything off, that was a look, you know, it worked.
A lot of anti-blackness we're still unlearning, and a lot of that was put on us by the older generation as what they thought was protecting us. Rather, it was religion or preparing us for the working world or just being safe in black bodies and being able to exist in a country that loves black culture but hates black people. Even in homes that were more Hotep black radical adjacent, because white supremacy is about as omnipresent as oxygen in our lives, it still came with rules that leaned in black respectability politics.
So growing up, was it frowned upon for Africans to grow their hair out? Like, say when you were like a teenager, if you decided you wanted to get locks or braids, how would your parents have responded?
Not well. That would often be a conversation. In fact, my dad would actually tease my mom because I feel like my dad was more worldly traveled. Like he was a kid that like left Nigeria at 18 and like went like traveled the world immigrant style before ended up in America, rather than my mom that like just got picked up in Nigeria, went straight to America. So he would often joke with my mom saying like, yeah, like he's gonna get a Rasta hat with the locks on it and like just come into the house and like said that he changed his hair. And then my mom would like get all angry about it, be like, no, like dreadlocks are dirty. Dreadlocks like are unkempt. And I actually never got that, right? Or like I would be fed that. And then we also lived next to Jamaicans who like had clean locks and like smelled like tea oil. So I didn't even know where it was coming from because I would see all the work they would do to maintain their locks. And I'm like, I feel like they do more to upkeep their hair than I do to upkeep my hair. Like I just let it grow. And then every month I just let somebody basically cut it all off. Like I shampoo once a week because I'm a child. And to be fair, that's the amount you should be shampooing. But so yeah, my parents saw dreadlocks as kind of as a black thing, and you know, diaspora wars and all those kind of things. And I feel like my parents therefore had a sort of negative representation of locked hair, to the point where even now, like now I clearly have locks, right? And I waited until I was out of the house to do that. But you know, I still see my parents often, and my mom will say I look like a Yahoo boy. You know, do you know what Yahoo? Okay,
I'm assuming is it some type of criminal or something? I don't know.
Yeah, it's what they call the scammers now. Like we don't have like nobody is actually any Nigerian prince that you interact with. That's a white man that you're dealing with probably. Like you know they're cosplaying, they're doing digital blackface to be a Nigerian prince. We don't do Nigerian prince anymore. Now you got Yahoo boys who like use like the internet, use Yahoo email addresses, like use Yahoo search engine or whatever to like do internet scams.
So you grew up as, like you said, you grew up in a Hotep household. So with you, obviously it was different. So with me growing up in a traditional religious household, for us, black hair was so policed. Like I would be frowned upon having my hair this long. It was basically you could have a taper or maybe a bald head if you were older. So growing up in the black household, how was hair looked at for you as a young child? Like just the idea of either braids or locks and stuff. Because in a lot of black homes, that was looked at as, oh, that's either a dirty look or you look like a criminal.
Yeah, so we did have a little bit of that, right? Like I probably wouldn't have been allowed to grow my hair out as a kid. It was like, it was a little classes. And even I noticed it as a kid, like my friends in the neighborhood that didn't have, whose parents didn't have white collar jobs, all of them had braids. And I used to wonder that, why everybody got braids except me? And somebody was like, because they can't afford to get a haircut. And I was like, oh, damn. And it's probably true, right? Like if you got a little boy, you can braid their hair for the first, 5-6 years of their life. And you don't have to ever get a haircut, especially if you got kitchen curl equipment, and like everybody in the family, somebody know how to braid hair. So getting braids, like the cornrows, the O-dogs, all that was never something I would have been able to do as a young kid. But I was allowed to like grow an afro. That would have been fine. I was allowed to grow a fade if I, had the hairline and the shape fit for it. My brother had that. My brother even dyed his hair blonde for a little bit, which was an interesting era.
Curious, what was your mother's and like your older aunts and stuff? What was their experience or what were their views on black hair, if you can recall? Like their styles, were they ones to embrace natural? Were they the relaxers, the creamy crack sisters, or what?
So my aunt, she was like the queen of wigs, always and forever. I've never seen her without a wig, and she would swap them and rotate them, daily and weekly. My mother, she has, like I said, it's always been like a press and curl. You know what I'm saying? Basic, simple. It's been that way since she was young, and it stays that way now that she's, the age that she is now. Neither my mother or my aunt really embrace like naturally curly hair. Like when I say natural hair, not just treated hair, but like the curly natural hair. So when I started wearing my afro and stuff like that, it was definitely like the side eyes, like, what are you doing? Are you going to do your hair? You know what I'm saying? Are you walking out the house looking like that? So it definitely wasn't something that, they were particularly interested in.
I remember one time, like my hair was kind of like this, like right now it's wet. Once you get drier, it gets bigger. So in the morning, I guess I had seen everybody. I saw my director, she came in, we just chatted. And then by about noon, maybe 2:00, it dries out and it gets bigger. And I know, as she came in and she like stopped dead in her tracks, like she saw a ghost because my hair had gotten bigger. She was like, like she was really taken aback by the like volume of my hair. So it's just crazy. Like we live in like two separate Americas.
Like it's not a lot of people cutting their hair off. And now you saying that, I'm thinking about it like, damn, people are not, and talk about what you was talking about earlier, the laws are changed where they have to accept, your hairstyle, and it's so crazy. Like, what do my hairstyle got to do with me being smart or doing the job? You know what I'm saying? Now I feel like you're just trying to label me so you won't hire me. You have all these rules that I have to get through before you hire my ass, and it's a weird time. And now I think it's more acceptable than it used to be.
So yeah, it wasn't a style. It was like a religion. Like and now I heard in certain places in Jamaica, if you wasn't on roster and you had like locks, they'll cut them shits out. Well, I can't curse. I'm sorry. They'll cut it out.
You can curse, man. It's not
they'll cut it out. You know what I'm saying? That's real. But now it's just a style.
Yeah. Which I like because it's helped normalize everything. And now like your daughter, she's gonna grow up in a world where hearing black people get a relaxer, she probably don't even really know what that means. If you tell her.
You can tell.
Yeah. And now she's growing up seeing little boys with their hair grown out, braids, dreads, all of that. Her teachers are coming to school and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And it's changed to an era where it's seen as professional also.
Right.
Which is crazy when you think about it. It was ever a time when black hair could be seen as unprofessional when it's our natural hair.
Ain't that something? I'm gonna give you one. I work in the delivery field. In certain companies, they just changed it. Like UPS, you couldn't have certain hairstyles working for them. You couldn't have facial hair. Like they like the Yankees. You have to have clean face, certain haircut. But now they changed that because that's kind of, I ain't gonna say low key. That's discrimination because that's for
definitely.
us.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you white, you grew your hair out for 9 months. You wet that shit. You could peel it back. A black dude, I can't. What I'm gonna do with this?
Yeah, we got to do something to it. We got to style it up. Like, I'm glad that even society is picking up because that was a while. Even the Yankees changed it, bro.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I heard that they just changed it this year. That they can finally wear a beard.
80, like it was for almost 80 years. You had to have a certain look, but I guess we trying to grow as a society.
Yeah, I was kind of different as the Jehovah's Witness. Like I was one of those people who was very like in tune with like social, political kind of movements. And I remember one particular example. I was like a young elder in the congregation, and I remember they wanted me to counsel this sister who had she did like the big chop. She went natural, and she had like the little afro and everything. And a couple of the older brothers in the congregation, two black brothers, they was like, you got to talk to her. We want to counsel her because it looks a little inappropriate. I'm like, why? What's wrong with her hair? And like, I guess they felt like I was a little rebellious because I gave them pushback, but I'm like, yo, there's nothing wrong with her hair, bro. Like she cut the chemicals out of her hair. She wanted a more natural type of thing. But, like I said, I was raised with that Afrocentric mentality. So I was like, yo, I support the sister. You ain't getting me to say nothing bad about her.
Right. Like, what did they want you to tell a black woman about cutting her hair? And where, like, what did they want the solution to be? Tell her to go get a wig?
Yeah, pretty much. And my thing at the end of the day was the hair's gone. So what are you going to do? She can't reattach it,
Right.
We used to get magazines like for the patients in the waiting room, and me and one of the other nurses went to check the mail, and Rihanna was on the cover of one of the magazines. She had braids. I was like, oh my gosh, she looks so good. I want to get braids. And the girl that was there with me, she was like, I don't know how to feel about that. Oh, a white woman, obviously. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean how to feel? Like, you don't get to feel a way about it.
Right, about you getting braids?
Yeah, I was like, oh my, Rihanna looks so good. I want to get braids done now. And she was like, oh, I don't know how to feel about that. It was just weird, like a weird comment. Like, and then my best friend is an attorney. Had he been an attorney at that time, I would be in a very different living situation.
We don't realize it that certain black folks are putting anti-black thoughts in our head, even if it's unintentional, like, your mother may have not intended it, but her was just sending that message to you that this hairstyle puts you in the category, even though you were just a kid.
For sure. And that's one of the, my, rest in peace to both of my parents. They are passed now, but like this ain't no smoke. Like I was super close to my mother. I was super close to my father as well. I had great relationships with both. But it's one of those moments where you have to like retroactively or retrospectively kind of analyze the way in which some of that generational trauma was passed down, right? Mm-hmm. And certainly some of the internalized anti-blackness took root in, respectability politics was huge in my family. That's probably why I'm so anti-respectability politics now. Particularly from my mom. And those were moments where I noticed, I didn't understand it at the time. I knew that it frustrated me and I knew that it like didn't make sense. But now that I have the language and the perspective to like kind of retrospectively analyze that, it is all rooted in sort of internalized anti-blackness. And I kind of hate that our parents, and I'm sure I'm not alone, right? Like many of our parents had to kind of adapt that as a survival tactic in order to keep themselves afloat. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Because when they started entering the workforce, literal laws were being passed about the hair that they could wear, especially black women. Mm-hmm. Then, you got the era of hip hop and stuff. And now that's convincing parents or law enforcement that these kids that have this type of hair or shit, even having waves, honestly, like it was weird. Like you just always felt like they felt some type of way about you having waves, like, oh, that's the hip hop style, or because older cats ain't have waves in the 60s and 70s. You know what I'm saying? 70s, 80s.
They had them backwards waves, them pompadour ass waves.
On Obama's last administration, like 2016, when we started seeing all of these shootings of black men, and it was obvious anything wasn't going to happen. To me, I feel like something happened that, at least with black bodies, where like people were saying like, okay, at least we can grow our hair out, we can be natural, and it seems like it's actually sticking. Because before, a trend every 5 to 7 years would change, but this is the first time I've seen a black hair trend stick around for this long.
Yeah, I guess you might call it interest convergence, which is a critical race theory concept where basically the needs and what's good for like the people, for black people, accidentally connect with the needs and what's good for, you know, the powers that be. Obama is in and of itself an example of interest convergence where, you know, like the capitalism in society needed to like, you know, get everybody back on board with the system before we tore it down. And so then we get a charismatic black president to kind of make everybody chill the fuck out and feel good for a little bit, right? And so I think that's also part of it where like Obama kind of created this neo-black excellence wave. And then also the counter argument to Obama, like recognizing Obama wasn't what we all wanted him to be fully, made people like say go harder. So now we got to get back to our roots and radicalism and look the part and reject acceptable Negro imagery. And all that converges and coincides with the rise of media, of content creation. The first black, like probably some of the first big black creators on YouTube were all black hair bloggers. Half of our homies in Cornbread Tube or whatever, you know, some of the pioneers like T Noir and Nappy Head and Jojoba and Julesy low-key get their start as a part of the hair community, even Fab Socialism. You know what I'm saying? They low-key get their start because they're in the hair, beauty, natural aesthetics community. And so that also creates more cultural cachet, so that now it used to be if you had natural hair, you was just a nappy-headed, you know, whatever, nappy-headed hobo. Like that was just a derogatory thing that happened. But now people recognize having like really healthy, big, you know, natural hair is a flex, because that means you have a lot of time on your hands, you have expertise and skill, you got to have money. You can't have natural hair that looks like insert person here's hair and be a brokey, you know? Right. So like, and also you got to have good genetics, you got to have good lifestyle. Like it's so many things that intersect with just how we look that explains why certain looks have certain meanings and why they're popular or unpopular. Right. But like specifically, like Jalen Hurts is rocking a very buttoned up, you know, the fade. Like Hurts could be a quarterback for the NFL team, or he could be like your real estate, you know, your bank loan officer. We're looking at him. But on the flip side, Lamar Jackson, you know, he could be playing football. He could be working in the car in the shop. He could be driving trucks. He could be running up in your house when you're not home with his haircut. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
And Lamar is low-key this generation's Allen Iverson. He's that athlete that every black dude, even if he wasn't playing ball, you just want to kick it with him, you know?
Yeah.
Despite having 4 sisters, I don't know if any of them actually got relaxers in their hair, aka a perm, or in some circles known as creamy crack. Especially if you go back far enough, like look at those Crooner brothers in the 1960s and earlier. And for way more info on all of this, but especially the relaxers, check out Lectural's video she did Lectural Media's video she did a couple years ago about black women hair. But as fashion and styles change, hair relaxers went out of style for men. I mean, well, mostly. They was doing something called a Jerry curl up into the late 80s. Then a movie by the name of Coming to America made fun of how goofy it looks, and it faded into being the old head, out of style hair. Like, it's always people that hold on to that trend for way too long. When I was a kid in the 90s, it was a man in my congregation that had some type of Jerry curl thing, and as a child, it terrified me. I don't know why. In my mind, it literally looked alien-like. Anyway, relaxers stayed around with black women for a couple reasons, while men who need to enter the professional workforce that hates black bodies, we could just simply get a baldy or a low-cut taper. Women aren't really going for that for the most part. And as America forces assimilation on all non-white people, black women were forced into chemically changing their hair, either that or by wigs with soft, wavy hair. After enough years of it, this became the standard of beauty to have some type of soft hair that a comb can be ran through. This started way younger than I expected in the home.
I don't even want to be that person, but I swear to God, I started this. Like, I know I didn't start this, but I'm saying, like, I was definitely one of very few people that was
early on the wave.
You know what I'm saying? Because this was like, 2010, 2011 type stuff. People wasn't really wearing afros and wearing the natural hair and stuff like that, but that's like just really what I was on type stuff. So I definitely think, I'm not gonna say I started it, but I was definitely ahead of the curve for sure.
I'm assuming, were you a Tumblr girl?
A Tumblr? Oh my God, I lived on Tumblr, yeah.
Maybe it was more popular with women, or maybe I'm just old. I was never on Tumblr, but all the girls that had that vibe were on Tumblr, which brings us to, so you describe yourself as art, because I made a mistake calling you goth, and you cut into me. So for the audience that don't know, what is a black art girl, or what does it mean to you?
To me, alternative just means, alternative to what you would consider to be the norm. So typically, I guess when people think about black people, it's kind of just, one thing. It's R&B, it's hip hop, it's rap, and that's pretty much just what it is. But, outside of that, it's so much more. You have black girls or black people that are into different kinds of music, different kinds of styles. Black people that's not even from the hood. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we're all different kinds of black people. And like for me, when I think about alternative, I think about, the Lisa Bonets. I think about, the Rachel Trues. I think about, Khalees and Missy Elliott and people like that. So it's like when I say alternative, it's not like, oh, it's goth or oh, it's emo. Like, no, it's just really an alternative to what you would consider to be the typical. You know what I mean?
And everybody
and it's
just
so
acts
unfortunate that you even have to, change who you are or, your appearance to kind of like, get the job that you want, because unfortunately that stuff is frowned upon.
There was an older white lady, and she was like, I saw her like looking at my hair, like she wanted to touch it, but she didn't like want to touch it, like obviously. So she like leaned in to give me a hug, and she put her hand down the back of my head, like to touch my hair. I was like, girl, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
No, never relaxed her. She's, natural from birth. It's funny. So like my daughter's mother, her hair is like definitely like that 4C kind of hair. Like they call it 4C.
Yeah. So for my audience, non-black audience, 4C is pretty much what people consider when you think of black hair. Like mine's is closer to 4C. When you think of black hair, it's the tighter. You know what I'm saying? For what they called for years, nappy hair.
Yeah, exactly. So that's her mother's hair, and her hair is very similar to her mother's hair, and like I love that because her mother can help her, style it naturally and teach her how to use products that are good for her hair. Majority of the time, though, my daughter's hair is like in braids. A lot of different styles, but mostly braided, protected styles. And, she loves it. She even, because she's part of this age where they can go on YouTube and look up styles. She Googles different braiding styles to show her mom, like, hey, Ma, this is the style I want. And, I love that because I don't want her to have any hang-ups about her hair or feel like, my hair isn't this or my hair isn't that. As long as you are taking care of your hair, it's good hair. That's the attitude I want her to have.
Right. And it's just curious how our parents' generation really didn't even realize that they were putting that into our heads, giving us this extra hang-up about just something as simple as our hair. Like I talked to a couple other young ladies that I interviewed for this. They said they got their first relaxer as young as 4 years old. Yeah. So like just think about that. Before you even start kindergarten, you putting this idea into a little girl that her hair isn't the way her hair grows is something wrong with it, or she needs, it's not fine that way. That's not how it should be. And now this generation of parents, most parents I know, I don't really know any younger parents who are putting relaxers in their little girl hair.
Yeah, it's funny, the concept of that it wouldn't even come into my head. Like, if when my daughter gets older, she decides to do that, that's her business. But as a parent, of a young child, I would never put a relaxer in my daughter's hair.
I just kind of got into the wig game. I was never in it real bad because I was like, if I put this on my head, it'll look stupid. I'm not going nowhere. So I just got in the wig game. I like it. It's comfortable. I think it's a good alternative to braids. Right now, I'm just MJ. Right now, I got my hair braided back, moisturized. So I'm into it. I don't got to flat iron it. I like it. I think it's a nice protective thing until I feel like bringing out my hair again.
Now, what's going on with him? Like, I know it's different for boys also, but so now that you have a son, what are you all doing with him as far as hair wise?
So we wash it, we keep it moisturized. I mean, we haven't cut his hair really yet because he's so young, but a lot of older people around us have tried to pressure us into doing things with his hair because of his hair texture is like mine when I was growing up. Like, he has a different color hair. It's more light brown, but he has his mother's hair texture. So, of course, he's going to get the same criticism that I got, but I don't let it happen. Like, I'm very emotional about what people say about his hair. It's to a point where they're scared to speak on it, which is how I want it to be. Like, do not speak on my son's hair.
So, what are they saying about it? Go in detail about that.
They're like, oh, you should cut it. Like, you should cut it down. Don't let him wear his hair out in a fro. And then I noticed, like, if his hair texture was softer, they would not be saying that. I think they just feel like since his hair is like mine, he should cut it off since he's a boy because there's no reason for his hair to be out anyways. Like, just keep it short. But we don't want to cut his hair. I mean, he's too young to have clippers to his head all the time. So it's just, yeah.
And at 3 years old, when little black boys, little black girls, the featureism, the colorism, all of that is coming into play. Mm-hmm. He could probably go another year or two, or if y'all want to put it in braids or locks or I don't even know what y'all want to do yet.
Like, dang, his hairline ain't even came in for real yet. We already get in my lineup. No.
Yeah.
I would say when I would wear my hair in my high ponytails a lot, I get a lot of white men. I'm not into white men at all. No offense to them, but they bother me a lot when my hair is up in that high straight ponytail. Or if I have my hair like this, I get a lot of black men. I don't know why. It's like they know. Like, oh yeah, let me go talk to her. Like, she might want to talk to me. So I get more black when my hair is like, it's weird.
I swear most black women say that. If they have a weave or more straightened hair, they say they get approached by way more black dudes. I mean, black.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Or if I have some type of braids, they'll approach me for sure.
It was a point in time where I was just really just all about wrapping my hair, and I would just walk around with the Baduism all the time. Mm-hmm. And I definitely noticed when I would do that, it would be a different approach. Like, people would definitely, it wouldn't just be like a, hey, how you doing? It would always be something extra like, hello, my beautiful African queen, this, that, and third.
The grand rising, brother.
You know what I'm saying? It'd be all of that. And I'm just like, okay, you know what I mean? But other than that, I haven't really noticed too much of a difference.
Now, what about your mother? What was her hairstyle, if you can remember?
And you know what's really funny about that is that, like, as much as my mom talked about, I think for her, some of her anti-blackness and some of her I even feel weird saying it that way. Some of her internalized struggle that manifested itself sometimes in anti-blackness came from her overbearing love and protection around me being a young black boy growing up in Detroit, on the west side of Detroit. Right. And that's a dangerous proposition no matter what side of town you live on.
Yeah.
And so I really think a lot of her behavior towards me, this like insular, like just wanting to wrap you up and make sure that you stay out of all of the things that could even potentially be a problem, was rooted in that. And the reason why I say this is because on her end, she was one of the first like natural women that I ever, like, she did not believe in perms. She would press her, I think she would press her hair every now and then, but like for the longest time, she kept a short, like little mini fro for like all of my childhood. She didn't put no chemicals in her hair. She didn't put any, I wasn't really checking like that, but I'm not sure if she was like a person that put a lot of heat into their hair. But she kept it natural. She didn't wear any weave as far as I could tell. She didn't really do a lot of perm styles. She was very much a natural, little short fro, little 90s mom kind of. I don't know how they did that, but like, I can't even describe it, bro. Like, I'm trying to think of a pop culture character that had a hairstyle like that.
Yeah,
like, if you can imagine, you know what I'm talking about? If you can imagine like a 90s sitcom mom.
Yeah,
like,
or something off of Living Single or something like that.
Yeah. Yes, that's how she kept it.
But you know, my mom also, like, you know, was, you know, again, we're Hotep adjacent, so she rocked like long braids all the time before they were popular. She had micro braids in the 90s. She went to Africa and I'll never forget, she went to Africa and came back with micro braids in like 95. And like nobody had ever seen, she would get stopped all the time. Everywhere we would go, somebody would stop her and say, well, how did you do that? Where did you get that? She'd be like, I went to the motherland and my ancestors did it for me. And she would say shit like that. But like, we were all about black hair as long as it wasn't too close to being ghetto.
Now it seems like the last 15 years or so, creamy crack is all but being rejected by black women of a certain generation thanks to education on what it does to hair and bodies, and acceptance of natural hair, affordable wigs, and now we have an entire generation that won't even know the concept of chemically changing their hair. Before y'all think I'm one of those grand rising brothers that thinks every woman should be in natural hair 24/7, I know how time consuming it is. Sometimes for the ladies, wearing a wig is easier, and if that's what you want to do, go ahead.
I get a lot of compliments from white guys when I wear my natural hair. More like not necessarily a flat iron, but more like in a natural state. I do get quite a few, and then I do get a lot of people like a lot of guys like short hair as well. And when I was short, I did get a lot of compliments on short hair.
And you have kids, right?
Yes.
Now, have you noticed with the younger, you have a boy or girl?
Two boys.
Oh, okay. Now with them, have you noticed that at least in their classrooms, it looks different from when you were a child? I know when I was in elementary, even at that young age, it was girls, they would get either flat irons or flat irons, weaves, perms, and stuff like that. Have you noticed it different from when you were a kid?
I do notice a difference now. What's considered appropriate now was not considered appropriate when I was a kid. That makes sense.
What you mean by that?
Extremely long braids. I had a strict parent, so anything that was like that didn't make me look of age. Right now, you got kids in high school, 30-inch weaves, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like when I was in high school, that would be like a definite no.
The trend now is it's been a trend for like since 2016, 17. The little kinky fro, taper on the side. I cut a lot of high school kids, and when you're in high school, most of the kids always want to fit in. So I do a lot of same haircuts for them. You know what I'm saying? And usually when you're in high school, you don't have a mind of your own. You just wanna feel like you fit in. So in order to do that, you have to look like everybody else. So to answer your question, it's the fro with the taper on the side with the little kinky thing. In the South, because a lot of the dreads was heavy in Florida, yeah. and then they came up. I don't know where. I don't know what era. Maybe like 2017, 18, I guess, where you see more people with dreads, and now you see everybody with dreads. Right. it's always a change in the black community. That's what I do like about it. I don't know what's about to happen. Do people go back to waves? And it's like back in the day when people grew their hair out, get braids. After so long, cut that boy right off and you right back to having waves again, you know? So I look at waves as like having Ralph Lauren polo on. You can never go wrong, you know? Right.
And then you had like the Rastas that just had the long, the super long unkempt locks, but that wasn't something that really crossed over into mainstream culture. What I think maybe had something to do with it is, and I wonder if you talk to any of the Southern brothers, any of the guys from like Atlanta or Georgia, Texas, North Carolina, etc. I think it was more common earlier in that part of the United States. Mm-hmm. And when you started to get football players, basketball players, rappers gaining mainstream notoriety, I think it like normalized this as a viable hairstyle for young black men to imitate. And I think it just so happened to align with this seemingly pro-black beauty approach towards ownership of your natural hair.
Like, are perms and relaxers, is that still a big thing, or is that something kind of the old generation thing?
I don't think it's a big thing anymore. I think now that everybody's leaning towards their natural hair, I think getting a relaxer and a perm is like, oh my gosh, you're going to put that in your head. Now that we know that it's not the best thing just because someone said it was, now everybody's like, oh, don't do that. Because now we've discovered like this is a chemical, it's a carcinogen.
All right. So she 9, has she ever had a relaxer?
Never had a relaxer in it? Nah, she never had a relaxer.
Okay, that's what's up, man. Honestly, that's all of that is what the video is about. Like, our generation. I talked to women for this video. They said the youngest I've heard now is 4. I think she said she had her first relaxer at 4 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, and your daughter, because you Jamaican, right?
Yeah, I'm half Jamaican.
Half Jamaican, right? So when we were growing up, especially little black girls, they were told that, oh, well, you had that thick stuff. You got bad hair. The mamas was putting hair relaxers and perms and stuff in their hair before they even was in kindergarten. So, this new generation of parents, that's something you and your girl had discussed about, wanting.
I'm glad you brought that. I was actually about to tell you a story about that because I didn't really understand it at first. Like, okay, when my daughter was first getting hairstyles, her mom would like put extensions in her hair and like weaves and stuff, right? But as the father, I'm like, man, she don't need that, because she's a little girl. But my girl explained to me, like, there's a lot of black women, like, the hair, even with me, hair is very important, like, for their confidence and how they look. Mm-hmm. So she's explained that to me. She's like, no, it's not about her being grown and everything. It's just for her confidence and stuff like that. So I was more open to it because I didn't agree with it at first, bro. To be honest with you, I'm like, she's a little girl. You let her be a little girl, but I understand now, it's about, they take, how black women, bro, they take that hair very, very, very seriously.
Right. But that's interesting that, like I was saying, so our generation, we're pretty much the first ones to like just stop doing relaxer. Is that something she ever discussed? Like she didn't want to put a relaxer in the baby, or that's something she just never really did herself?
Yeah, it just never really did. Like you said, only thing that she did was what I told you about, but I don't think because it's a lot of chemicals in them stuffs, man.
Exactly. In our generation, like we are finally being educated on that. Like you notice a lot of them just going away from that. So like our maybe aunts and parents, they're the ones, if anybody, still doing that. But now it's gone closer to, weaves and braids and stuff. Natural styles allowing little girls, especially, as young as she is, to be able to embrace her natural hair. Like she's used to, at a young age already, being able to wake up and look at her hair in the morning and not being told, oh, we got to do this, or, you need to chemically change.
They put a lot of pressure on you with stuff like that, especially for kids,
It's just, it was just interesting to hear the perspective of a little girl. Cause like, if I would have asked her 20 years ago, a little dark skinned girl, she would have said, I don't got good hair. I got bad hair. Like you've seen, I don't know if you've seen them videos from like back in the day, talking to little kids.
Right. Because that's the thing. Because that's a whole saying, like the quote unquote good hair.
Exactly.
That's a thing too. Like, what's good hair? Like,
now, what about your girl? Has she gone on the natural route, or how does she feel about it? What's her style?
Nah, they wear on. Nah, she could wear her natural hair, but like she switches it up. Sometimes she'll wear like She get her hair braided up. She'll wear like the wigs. That's another thing too. Wigs is very like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very common.
yeah. Because when we were younger, we always thought wigs was something for older women.
Yeah, we thought that was for grandma. Like
right
now, and the girls, they'll let you know. Like,
yep,
they'll show you. They'll take the wig off and have a bald head the next day. But it's cool. Back in the days though, that was wild to see. But it's cool. It's cool. But like I said, like I was trying to. My girl explained to me about with the black women with the hair. Like it's a big deal, man. Because like people, they look at us different. Like people sometimes they ask black, can I touch your hair? Can I? Mm-hmm. It's like a project to them. Like it's serious. My girl taught me this word.
Well, I was a chronically online kid, so I was into like the natural hair girlies back on Tumblr, and that started with primarily girls with 4C hair doing big chops and just learning how to deal with their hair texture and things of that nature. And I found that even though we don't necessarily have the same hair texture, the things that they would do and the methods they use would work for me as well. So because I already had a roadmap of how to do it, it wasn't like a learning experience. It wasn't, I already knew what to use. I already knew methods to do to control my hair, to keep the frizz down, to make it look presentable and all that.
I mix it up. I'm a person who gets bored, so I do try to do different. Well, I typically like my kids to choose what style they would prefer. My oldest, he has had braids twice now. He actually just cut his a couple of months ago. He went through a phase where he just had hair up top, and then he would have like the sides and back tapered, and then he also
was it the kill. You know what the Killmonger is?
Is that from Black Panther?
Yeah, he was rocking the Killmonger.
Mm-hmm. But his would be braided, up top, and then he wanted braids again, and so I allowed him to grow it out again. My oldest, he just didn't like to get it done, and what comes with that, you have to be, you gotta have the maintenance. If you want the hair, you gotta keep it together. And unfortunately, when it was time to get braided, it would. He didn't really like to. My youngest one, he also had hair. We cut his hair off at about 5 years old. He didn't really too much care. I think they just kind of like, my kids are low maintenance, so.
Like 2-3 years ago, more like 3 years ago, I had a different style like all the time. Like 1 week it'll be braids, 1 week it'll be twists. Like but now that I'm like getting older and I'm starting to get busier, like I just really just need something that's just kind of, it's easy, it's kind of basic. I can wear it in corporate, but I can also wear it to, go out and look cute and stuff like that. So for me right now, I'm really just with, I'm with a good press and curl, a good roller wrap, you know what I mean? A good sew-in, you know what I mean? So that's really where I'm at with it. And like I said, I used to do like a lot of crazy colors. Now that I'm getting older, like I'm just really just like natural colors. So it's really just kind of just like black and, maybe a ginger here and there. You know what I mean?
Like I said, it's no wrong answer. I have similar theories too, that it's aligned with this rise in that era we had of the Black Lives Matter movement, where we seen people getting shot, and they were like, for like 6 months, he was like, oh, something go change. Then they was like, nah, we ain't sending no cops to prison. So one of the last things we were able to do is take agency over our bodies and like, this is our hair. You started to see all of this stuff in the culture change. And I feel like this one time is going to stick around.
I agree. I think so too. Because you could tell by what the young people are doing, right? Like I don't think waves are popular amongst like young kids. Like Gen Z, Gen A, even. I think Gen A is after Gen Z.
Yeah, Gen Alpha.
Like they're not wearing their hair like that. I think there's been a normalization of this like natural approach to letting your hair grow. And I also think that like, and you know, I love that we're getting away from relying on white acceptance from mainstream white culture, because that has not worked for Black women. But I do think that there's something to the proliferation of that hairstyle in pop culture, whether it be through the MCs, the rappers, the football players, the whatever. The fact that it's so prevalent and they're making it look cool, like it's kind of hard to be like, oh, that's whack or that's corny. Like, nah, bro, your favorite rapper, your favorite MC, your favorite football player, your favorite basketball player, he's rocking that. Even in baseball, right?
Then shoot, cartoons. You got the three probably biggest of the last 10 years. Miles Morales, Killmonger, and Black Panther all had a natural joint. And so with you being an older millennial, you've pretty much noticed like 4 eras of Black men hair. So some people that follow you, they've seen the photos of you when you had the bald head in college. And then we went from bald heads are cool to waves are cool, which was kind of the same era. Right. So how have you noticed waves? How have you noticed Black hair in men change over the decades? And is there anything that you attribute that to, maybe politically?
I don't think it's truly political. It's just hip hop and fashion culture. Like, I'll never forget when I was a teacher, all the little boys had, you know, whatever hair, and then Wiz Khalifa popped off. And then suddenly every little boy in my school got the blonde streak in their head. And I'm like, when did this happen? When did y'all bring this back? Because that was hot in like 88. The 88, circa 88, 91, that was hot. Like, how did this reemerge? And then I realized Wiz Khalifa did it. And it emerged back then probably because Big Daddy Kane, you know what I mean? Or Kwame. I don't know who actually did it back then, technically. But you know, fashion and styles, they ebb and flow, they change. Certain things become hot, then cool. There was a moment where the mohawk was hot. Remember every little boy had a mohawk.
Travis Porter, I think that was the group.
Maybe it was Trez, yeah. You know, locks. When I was younger, I wanted locks probably because nobody had them. Right? Like when I was in high school and I was trying to figure out, I couldn't, like locks were so unpopular. There was no way for me to even figure out how to grow locks. I just grew my hair for like 6 months because I was going to figure it out. And I eventually just never figured it out. And then I started shaving my head after that for permanently. And until I grew locks again, until I started growing locks again in like 2007. So that was like an 8-year period of going bald. And then like, you know, and the reason why I grew locks in 2007 is because when I was in the South, everybody had locks and I knew what to do. You know what I mean? So like it all ebbs and flows. It's pop culture. It's who's cool and hot in the streets and how do I look more like them because the girls will like me, you know? It's complex, but it's also not very deep.
Now, we made a lot of progress, and I honestly don't see the taper making a comeback with Black men anytime soon, or the creamy crack making a comeback with the ladies. In 2025, for the most part, the idea of trying to make a political statement by growing one's hair out isn't really a thing. It's kind of like outdated. Nobody really thinks of that. Like most people, when they see me with this hair, they don't think I'm trying to make a statement about accepting my Black natural hair. But a couple months ago, I cut my locks that I grew for, originally I wanted to do a way bigger production, but time and money. I have more ideas for Black documentaries I will need to travel for and hire help. So if you enjoyed this, and if you can support my Patreon, YouTube membership, or just buy me a coffee. Now, like with all things, when it becomes popular with Black people, other cultures want to imitate. So I just had a couple questions for FD, wanted to get his idea. And as you all will see as you watch this video, I also didn't have the energy to talk about Asians and their nonsense about replicating Black hairstyles with faux dreads. And I'm telling y'all, I told y'all, I'm trying to make content for Black people. It's all nonsense. And also, it wouldn't be an FD Signifier interview if he didn't tell me about some internet trend I had never heard of. This time, hard wig, soft life.
Makes sense, but I feel like it low-key does. So with Black culture being so influential, we noticed it like whatever the dude, the name that was dating Taylor Swift, when he started rocking the low cut, people were like basically acting like he created a taper. Right. Obviously, that's something that black men have been doing. So, like I said, this popped up in my head. It might not even be true. Do you feel like the broccoli cut that all the white boys are doing, is that a reaction to natural hairstyles on black men? Have you ever considered that?
You know, I have considered that because like white guys, young white men don't have their own idols anymore. All of their like prominent, like it used to be when I was in high school, when we were in high school, because you not that far from me.
Yeah. Oh,
you remember there was white culture was this whole other separate thing. It's like completely, it's still separate now, obviously.
Linkin Park, Paramore, that album that the rock album that Jay-Z did was fucking crazy.
Right.
It was
Blink
called Collision Course.
Half of MTV was not for us. If you watch MTV for 12 hours out of a day, for 3 of those hours at least, there would be no niggas. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And we listen to that music. I went to a hood school and we rocked with some of the rock songs.
Right. And so like, but now the most like all their icons are, you know, Travis Scott. You know what I'm saying? They don't have their own iconic like fashion figures anymore. They probably have some that we don't know about, right? I don't know. Timothy Chalamet, somebody in there somewhere. But you know, I do think there's a chance. Until I can like find a patient zero, I won't die on this hill. But I definitely think there's something to the broccoli cut and like it hiding the face a little bit, and whatever else, being connected to like how to Chief Keef. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that aesthetic, which is pretty. That may be patient zero. Like Chief Keef's look and the way his locks covered half his face. That is what the broccoli cut does now. The other side of their influence is like, ironic trucker cuts. You know, the mustache with the mullet that half of all the left wing white guys were rocking for like the last like 3 years.
Yeah, the music guy.
Everybody was doing it. Like Noah Sampson, Connor, Kurt Connor. You know, I guess Hassan changed his hair all the time, but he did rock it for a second. You know, I don't know. I don't know. That's a really good observation. That there's probably some smoke to that fire. Have you heard? You got to do something on Hardwick Soft Life. Have you done that? Have you heard about that?
What is it?
You got to touch on that. That is.
You talking about the black women with messed up hair?
Not just messed up hair, but specifically bad wigs.
Oh yeah, like what's the name?
Get with white men though. Huh?
The racist black lady that they always pull in.
A bunch of
Candace Owens.
Candace Owens. So Candace Owens, I think I don't know. Her hair was real. Her hair was bad. Yeah. So that's an example of it, but that's not really it. I'm talking about like TikTok Hardwick Soft Life, and you'll see some people talk about it. But basically, black girls who grew up in white areas. So like if you're flying the milk, there's gonna be a process of whether or not you engage with black people a certain way, and you're more likely to end up fucking with white people. And that's fine. Like I want to be clear, that's fine. Y'all motherfuckers are always trying to be with this shit. But it does change the aesthetics and standards by which you engage with people, both for black people and white people. And it changes the ways that you can get your hair done. So what they found is that basically the meme is these black girls that grow up in the suburbs never really learn their hair like the girls that grow up around black people. And so they'll be walking around with these hard, stringy wigs. And it's like, why does your wig so bad, sis? But then they'll be like walking with the high value white man, arm in arm. Like they'll get chose by the high value white man. So it's like, wait, you got this hard, bad wig, but the soft life. And what they were like, basically what the conversation was is that these white men, by proxy of them also not coming up in black spaces, they've normalized that hard wig look. So they're cool with it. Whereas if I was to be dating a woman like that wore wigs and they were stringy synthetic wigs, I'd be like, girl, you're gonna have to upgrade that before we can really chill. This not up to my personal preferences, you know? And so like that's all part of the same conversation of how the way you wear your hair is indicative of, your values and your background and the things you're interested in or not interested in, and the people you are in community with or not community with. All black Republicans don't have fucked up hair, but most people, I'm sorry, all people with fucked up hair are not Black Republicans, but most Black Republicans have fucked up hair.
Yeah, like people got mad that I pointed out in my Boondocks video about Aaron Magruder, that the way his hair looked in that speech, it's not surprising that he's married to a non-Black woman. And talks
they hate that call out, and it's not. We're not trying to be mean. We're just pointing out.
We've grown up around it. That's
right. We know this is
how it is.
Yeah, it's not that. No disrespect. Are there things to be indicated about who you date? Sure. Are we saying that right now? No. But do I know if your hair looks a certain way that you're not fucking with Black women? Absolutely.
Right. And because I did get a couple interviews from my mixed folks, and race plays such a huge part in how hair is perceived. Here's an unofficial trailer, I guess, for a video I have in mind about being Black and mixed. If this video does good enough, you all will get that at some point this year.
Now, what is the hair journey like with you? Like, were you close to your Latin side of the family, or did you not really see them much, or how is it? Because I know when it comes to different cultures, Black, African households, it's all viewed a little bit differently. Were you close to that side?
No, I don't know anybody on my mom's side of the family. She came here. We didn't have any contact with her family. I don't know anybody on my mom's side of the family.
Okay. Now, what about culturally? Is that something that you kind of came into later in life? Everybody kind of just see you as Black and you identify as Black. So is that something that you've kind of gotten closer to your Latin culture later in life?
No, I'm just
okay.
I'm a spicy Black. You know how they say spicy?
Yeah.
I'm just a spicy Black.
No, yeah, for sure. Like, if you ever go back and look at baseball players in the 80s, all of them had texturizers in their hair. You know what I'm saying? Like the Pedro Martinez iconic look with the Jerry curls, like that was like a common thing of like Dominican, Cuban, Puerto Rican baseball players back in the day. And, of course, it all comes from the same thing, the ideas of conforming to the European view of, the standard of beauty. And like, I even remember as a child hearing, certain things like, they talk about like pelo malo, or like bad hair, and, marrying someone who's lighter skinned or who's white to, advance the race, or like mejorando la raza, as they would say. But, now it's being embraced a lot more. And that's a beautiful thing to see, because the oppression in America is bad, but the oppression in Latin America, if you can imagine, is even worse at times.